See, every time black folks try to get together, there's a problem. So let me tell you what the problem is. Well, just recently, not recently, well, let's say in the last year or so, there was a huge drug bust there in the Sahel area, in the desert area. 133 tons, not pounds, not kilos, but tons of illegal drugs, cocaine and a whole hashish, marijuana, everything, marijuana residue. I don't know what that is, marijuana residue. You have to explain that to me. But marijuana residue, coke, hashish, whole bunch of other drugs, all them kind of different drugs. And they were in the desert in caravans going through the Sahel, going through Burkina Faso, going through that area.
Don't just watch, act. Learn the history, share the truth, stand for justice, and be part of the change.
Hey, this is Janetta. Woo-hoo! Yes, on a nice Sunday here in Kenya, Nairobi. I'm enjoying it so very, very much. I'm having such a good time. But you know, let me tell you something. I want to talk to you. Now, when I talk to you, remember, I'm not a politician. I'm not trying to start any problems, but I'm trying to tell my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren, all these children that are here and those that are not here, what is going on in this world. Yeah. Now, you know about Ibrahim Traoré. You know about the young man who is the president of Burkina Faso. They don't like for you to call him the president. They want you to call him the leader of Burkina Faso, the coup leader of Burkina Faso. But whatever they call him, that young man is starting a forest fire. Let me explain something to you. Now, you think that the powers that be, let me explain it to you. The powers that be are the United States of America and, of course, Europe. That's what the powers that be. Okay, now, I got to put Israel in there too, because they're a power too. They're in this too as well. But let me explain something to you. The powers that be feel threatened because of what Ibrahim is doing, and not only because he's closing up gold mines. And he's not just closing up gold mines and taking over the oil and taking over the gas and doing things and telling the foreigners that he doesn't want them in his country because the country is sovereign. They don't have to take orders from the United States, and they're not, or Europe, and they're telling the World Bank and they're telling the World Bank, and what's another name of that other loan? IMF. Oh, it was stuck up in that head someplace. But the IMF, International Money Fund, I got another word for them, but the IMF. Yeah, well, he told the IMF to take their money and put it where the sun don't shine. And I understand that he has also kicked United Nations out of Burkina Faso.
Traoré has done the unthinkable. On the morning of August 18, 2025, he ordered the entire United States Embassy to leave Burkina Faso. Who else would dare to tell the most powerful nation on earth to pack its bags? Who else would lower the stars and stripes and raise instead the banner of Africa's sovereignty? This was not a quarrel over words. It was a thunderclap that shook Washington, Paris, Brussels, Moscow, and Beijing all at once.
Well, you know, those folks don't want you to do that. And it's not only him. He's along with Niger and Mali. They're all in support of each other. See, that's what they don't want you to do. They don't want us to get together. See, every time black folks try to get together, there's a problem. So let me tell you what the problem is. Well, just recently, not recently, well, let's say in the last year or so, there was a huge drug bust there in the Sahel area, in the desert area. 133 tons, not pounds, not kilos, but tons of illegal drugs, cocaine and a whole hashish, marijuana, everything, marijuana residue. I don't know what that is, marijuana residue. You have to explain that to me. But marijuana residue, coke, hashish, whole bunch of other drugs, all them kind of different drugs. And they were in the desert in caravans going through the Sahel, going through Burkina Faso, going through that area.
Drug seizures soared in the Sahel region, according to figures released Friday in a report from the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. In 2022 alone, 1,466 kilograms of cocaine were seized in Mali, Chad, Burkina Faso and Niger, compared to an average of 13 kilograms between 2013 and 2020. Cocaine is the most seized drug in the region after cannabis resin. The location of the Sahel, lying south of the Sahara Desert and running from the Atlantic Ocean to the Red Sea, makes it a strategic transit point for the increasing amount of cocaine produced in South America and destined for Europe. The involvement of various armed groups in drug trafficking undermines peace and stability, the UN Office on Drugs and Crime representative for West and Central Africa warned as he called for urgent action.
Niger, Burkina Faso, let me tell you something. They don't have a port, but the drugs come that way. They had a caravan. I'm getting tongue tied because it's just so outrageous. And so this is one of the reasons why there's a little thing that I'm going to read to you so you can understand what I'm saying, because Grandma can't remember all these details, so I had to use some help. But I want you to know this. The reason why they say they don't want the Ibrahim, that he's a terrorist leader and that he's making people suffer and he's doing all kind of criminal things and he's trying to keep the money for himself and he's corrupt and all these kind of things. They're trying to tell you that he's no good. Well, you know what those drugs support? Well, let me explain something to you. Africans don't have enough money to buy them, especially cocaine. It's $28,000 a kilo. $28,000 a kilo. Now, you thought the gold was worth something, right? But 1 kilo of cocaine is $28,000. That's the value of it, especially in Europe. All right, but they got to get it to Europe because they make cocaine primarily in Bolivia and Peru and Colombia, those areas. So that drug is coming all the way to Africa, and going into Europe. Not only that, Afghanistan, hashish, heroin, all that. In Afghanistan, and I think Morocco is coming from Morocco too. So these are the 3 points of where drug is flowing from, where people make it. You know, when I was in Peru, they have cocaine. They got cocaine trees in Peru. I mean, God put them there. It's his problem. But look, the way man abuse it, it's worth a lot of money. And you go to Peru, the people in Peru don't use drugs. I haven't been in one country that I see people on the streets laying down and drugs and all that kind of stuff like I have in America. Here in Africa, they might have one or two someplace, somewhere, but not really. In fact, most of the drugs that are produced, they don't have the money for them. Most of the majority of them. But let me not get off but Ibrahim. So the drugs, what is the purpose? The drugs that go through here, go through Africa, go through the Sahel, and they on the way to Europe. They get to Europe, and that's where they cash in. Now that money that they make from those drugs, that money is used to fund terrorism. And why do they want to fund terrorism? Because if they fund the terrorism, then they can keep Africa unstable. Not only Africa, but some other countries that they want their supplies, their oil and their gold and their minerals from, to keep them unstable. See, because an unstable Africa means they have free play of all their minerals, and that's what they want. That's what they want. Now, anything that I tell you, you can look it up, because those people that are out there, those terrorists, I wondered, Janetta, how do they get the money? How do they get the money to eat out there, to have shoes and weapons? And, they got to eat. They got to move, so they got gas, all that. Well, how do they get all this stuff without money? Because, when we go to war, we go to the Congress of the Senate to get money to budget for the war. So how do these people that are called terrorists, how do they get money? How do they get money how do they get money from all these weapons and everything? Where? Drug money. Because it's not accounted for. Am I saying that these countries are using drug money to fund the terrorists? Yes. Yes, they are. And it's no big secret. It's in there. The United States did it. The CIA did it in the United States when they put drugs in the African American community in California and started the crack cocaine epidemic. So, so you can check because the information's there. But all this that they're doing now, then that kind of confiscation of the drugs, 133 tons of it, during the time that France was out there protecting, so-called French soldiers were in Mali and Burkina Faso and Niger, supposedly protecting them from the terrorists. Protecting them for the terrorists. I'm telling you, I am telling you, protecting them from the terrorists. So the problems that they're having, Niger has kicked France out, Mali has kicked France out, and Burkina Faso has kicked France out. But France has been controlled and making money and living high on the hog from the minerals that they have taken free and easy from these countries. Now comes along Ibrahim Traoré and the other leaders of Mali and also of Niger and say, no more. You ain't doing it no more. So they kick France out. And what has happened is the insurgency or the terrorism has increased, crescendoed. And they say it's crescendoed. They're telling you it's crescendoed because they took their soldiers away and they kicked them out and they don't know what they're doing. They got rid of the French soldiers who were out there protecting them and protecting their country. They were so ungrateful. But those French soldiers weren't protecting anybody. They were aiding the narcotics. They were aiding the terrorists. So let me let you listen to this. I want you to listen to this. And then we'll talk a little bit, okay?
What do these terrorists really want? They have no schools, no hospitals, no vision for the future. So I ask you, who are they really working for? Not Africa, not our children, but the hidden hands that profit from our suffering. And that truth, my brothers and sisters, is what they fear the most. Africa, the highway. Africa is not the destination. Africa is the highway, the blood road. Cocaine, heroin, meth, they don't stop here. They pass through our deserts, our borders, feeding European streets while bleeding African soil. And the terrorists, they don't lead, they tax. They guard convoys. They destabilize nations. but their masters are elsewhere. So again, I ask, who do these terrorists really work for? The rise of Traoré. They said Africa would never resist. But in Burkina Faso, a young man stood up. Ibrahim Traoré dared to seize the drugs, to choke off the money, fueling terror. Now the dominoes fall. JNIM struck, Boko Haram shaken, Chad rethinking its path. If he succeeds, the empire of chaos collapses. And for the first time in decades, Africa rises.
Now that you've heard that, I want you to pass it on because it's very important as to why they really want to get rid of Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. Don't believe some of the narratives that you see because they're not telling you the truth. They're telling you what they want you to hear. But it's a real struggle for Africa. Do you know what would happen if Burkina Faso, this is pulled through? That if they're successful, it'll make a rise. It'll change Africa so that Africa will rise. So Grandma's going to leave you with that. Okay. Now, if you like it, share it. Say you like it. Let me know. And also subscribe for more details about what's going on here in Africa. Woo-hoo. See you later. Hey, this is Janetta, and you're watching Africa Speak. Woo-hoo.